Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Review. As we continue to discuss the latest and greatest in entertainment, today we discuss a highly anticipated game called So the plan here in this video is to give the general audience a general idea of what the game is about in an overview. Then delve into the story a bit without spoilers, but just in case I'd like to issue a light non-spoiler, so if you want to leave I suggest you exit the video now if you don't want to know anything about the game. Continuing on, we will then talk about the gameplay mechanics and how they function in the story. After that, we'll discuss some thematic elements that really resonated with me in the game, which will conclude with a wrap-up before we go of how I felt about the game overall. If you stayed this long, I'm assuming you don't care about minor spoilers for the game or just don't mind them as much. Now, let's review. Starting with the overview of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it is an action-adventure game developed by Respawn Entertainment and published by Electronic Arts, also known as EA. The game is directed by Stig Asmussen, sorry if I say that name wrong, I'm going to butcher these names. Writers Aaron Contreras, Manny Hagopian, Matt Michnovetz, and Megan Faust. The voice cast and mocap are done by Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis, Elizabeth Grullon as Second Sister, who's an Inquisitor, J.B. Blanc as Prouf, Debra Wilson as Cere Junda, Daniel Roebuck as Grease Dridus, Ben Burtt as BD1, Tony Amendola as Eno Cordova, Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera, Luke Cook as Sork Tormo, Misty Lee as the Ninth Sister, Liam McIntyre as Tyrone Malicos, Travis Willingham as Gerald Tapal, D. Bradley Baker as the Clone Troopers, and that is overall the general people who had created the game with one another in a collaborative effort. So now that we know about the game, I wanted to discuss the story a bit. So starting with generally and then moving on as to how I felt about it. So generally the story is filled with exciting action, vivid, vivacious environmental beauty in regards to the different locations, heartwarming characters, gut-punching story reveals, strong themes, and wonderful play. So I also wanted to take time to highlight the game's writing, the performances, particularly Monaghan and Wilson, for their chemistry and subtle layers between the two, and how their two journeys and stories intersect. They find a real nice way of making you really care about every single one of these characters. I thought that Cere Junda and Cal Kestis' relationship was so great compared to which you soon find out later is turned out a lot differently for one of her previous Padawans. And I think that's important that as this character's journey progressed throughout, we saw both of them deal with their traumatic past and both of them find a way to get through it with each other's help, not by themselves. And I think that there's a really good solidarity in that and a good message in that. So, yeah, overall, I really, really enjoyed the story. It kicked ass. And overall, yeah, that's how I felt. Moving on to the gameplay and the mechanics of how everything felt while playing the game. The gameplay is that of an action-adventure designed for players to jump into a situation and deal with through having a lightsaber and force. Not to utilize stealth elements to avoid combat, there is not an option to play a dark side path through the game. In combat, force usage consists of 3 different abilities: force push, force pull, and force slow. So the combat was fluid and elaborate. It challenged me, pushed me, and sometimes defeated me. But nonetheless, I felt like the action glided across my screen as quickly as my lightsaber did. The boss battles were small, but felt very large in scale and very intimate also, particularly the one at the very end. However, not every game is perfect, and I have a couple gripes for this game. The list being no fast travel, did I say travel? I meant travel. Sorry, I'm really sick right now. Ugly monsters, and that's all. Because the monsters in that game were way too ugly for me to even bear to look at. Especially Ogdo Bogdo. I'm telling you, I've never gagged in my life, and that thing, the toad thingy, was the first time I had ever gagged in my life. Anyways, moving on. The game was also for the most part the most challenging thing I've ever played. Cause I'm not a big gamer, but I'm just trying to get back into gaming, and this one was the best one to get into. Along with things like Spider-Man, PS4, and a bunch of other games that I began playing again. And I don't know, I'm really glad that this was the first new game that I played that really tested my mettle, so to speak. And although I rage quit a lot, I did love it, and it made me even more invested. And I appreciate the game for pushing me in ways I couldn't even imagine. Moving on to our second to last topic here, themes that matter. I think there are a lot of subtle messages here in the game, from respecting nature to connecting with spiritual faith, and lastly, fate versus destiny. So when I mean nature, I think the game has us in a lot of different places where we interact with new environments. And I feel like the creatures who attack us on those environments are trying to keep the infiltrators out, be it Jedi, Empire, or Alliance, from destroying their sanctum on a broader scale, making the game's creatures antagonize us for our savagery, and rightfully so. Which is why I think the game wants us to consider what we're doing in our real world even more. Now, in regards to spirituality, I felt personally, sorry, I can't talk today, that the stronger you're connected with the Force, the stronger Cal became, compared to the beginning where he had been cut off and not as strong as he was towards the end. And the last thing I'd like to discuss is the idea of destiny versus fate. Now, once you get deeper into the story early on, you understand what the overall real big mission in the game is. And this idea is heavily implied throughout the game, and the ripple effects and the consequences that could come with this certain mission. In this game, never have I been more satisfied with the choice they decide upon at the end. Without getting into spoilers, the reason why I think that ending hits home even harder, because we saw what happened to Cal when he was young as a Padawan, and we also see what happens to his mentor in this game, Cere Junda, while she was fighting during this hard and trying time of the Clone Wars, and before Order 66 and things of this nature. And I believe that because they both really looked well, everyone looked at the perspectives of these two characters, and we got to know them a lot more. I understand why they made the decision that they made in regards to said overall big mission that they had to complete. So yeah, I think that's the game didn't shy away from making those tough decisions, especially the one they make at the end. But as a player, I was super happy that they made the decision that they did make, if that makes sense. But it's something I also wanted to highlight as well. Now, overall, I'd like to close off by saying I obviously recommend the game. Although it's not perfect, and it does test your mettle and your patience, it does get you invested and really delivers on everything it promises, which is why I recommend you play the game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you like what you see here, please like, comment, subscribe, and dislike, and let me know what you thought about the game below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.